here. Thanks so much for coming. For those of you who don't know, my name is Sabrina Flood-Wiley. I'm this year's regatta bosun, which I'm so excited about. I'm talking to you from Boston College, where I'm currently a sophomore. I'm a graduate of the ship Morningstar, which I'm very proud of, and we have some members here today. And I'm just here, as we explained in the Facebook group for those of you who saw it, I'm just here to kind of give a rundown on some of the rule changes we have this year, like some things that are different from last year, although to clarify on that, because like writing rules is not a part of my job, if you have any technical questions or challenges or things like that, I can't answer those at this time, and those questions should be directed to the head judge. I'm more just here to like give you updates, and then we're going to go over like a couple kind of tips for success when it comes to AMR, even though I think most of you are probably pretty seasoned scouts. There are a couple things that we see repeated year after year after year that we thought it might be a good idea to point out from some of the adults who have been around a while. So we have a slideshow, as I'm sure you can see, which I'm kind of going to use as my guide. And I think we're ready to go. So clearly, we are here talking about the Ancient Mariner Regatta. This is just kind of outlining what we're going to be talking about tonight. Like I said before, event changes. We're going to briefly discuss the Navigator Award. We're going to talk about the dance, which we have some really exciting news about, and tips for success, like I said, and then the Sportsmanship Award. So changes to the obstacle course. As you can see in front of you, before there was a 30-second penalty if you skipped any part, like if you skipped the wall or if you skipped the ladder. But this year, as you can see, it's being changed to a 1-minute penalty. And you need to have a team time, which means all of your, everybody runs the obstacle course. You can combine all of their times to a time of 24 minutes or less in order to qualify in that event. So this is important as well for Breeches buoy. What we've had in the past is we've had the coxswain come up with 8 crew members and then only use 6 of them to compete in the event and just literally have the other 2 standing at the sidelines. And that's not something that will be allowed this year. All people participating in the event, as it says, must physically participate in Breeches buoy, including the coxswain. It will be a working coxswain. So there, you can see that. And Breeches buoy qualifying time. Oh, sorry, I messed up. Josh just sent me Mr. Gillen just sent me a little message. It is a non-participating coxswain. So this is the new wording of the rules. It's a non-participating coxswain, and then everybody else that you have must compete. So that means you can have a minimum of 7 people on the field, which means 1 non-working coxswain and 6 participating scouts, and a maximum of 9, which means 1 non-working and 8 scouts. Sorry for that. It's my own typo. Breeches buoy qualifying time is now 10 minutes. Before it was 15, but before anybody gets up in arms about that, everybody last year who participated in Breeches buoy had a time of less than 10 minutes. So we're not like dequalifying anybody. This is well within reach of everyone, and we saw that for several years. So that's why that's being changed. I think this is fairly self-explanatory, but it is a non-working coxswain, as we said before, which means the coxswain has to be like completely apart. You're just giving directions, as I think this makes pretty clear. But that will be a hard and fast rule in the event. And so this is a newer award, the Navigator Award. Again, as you can see on the slide, it says the ship that collectively scores top in compass points, rules of the road, piloting, and radio. And this, we think this award is really significant because these are all the skills you would actually need were you at sea. Obviously, everything else is important, but these specific set of skills, clearly you would use should you be on board a boat. I believe we didn't have anyone achieve that last year, so please, we'd encourage you to make that your goal for this year. It would be a pretty high achievement. It is brand new. I messed up on that. It is brand new. I thought that Mr. Gilliland had told me about it last year before the competition, but he just told me right now he actually told me about it just a couple months ago, hence my confusion. But it's brand new this year, so we encourage you guys to go for that. We'll have some more news about that later. It's also in the welcome letter, so please, pass it on to your ships as well as a source of motivation. Okay, so this is one of the things I'm probably most excited to talk about. As you know, last year, for those who were there, was one of the first years in a long time that we had scouts dressed formally for the dance, and we're going to continue that. But this year we've also added a theme, a 1940s theme dance. So as last year, scouts have the option of attending either in formal attire, 1940s era clothing, or your Sea Scout uniform. For this, they are making an exception in that female scouts can wear open-toed shoes, but shoes must be worn at all time, and please wear the shoes that you think are the most safe in that regard. And we also ask, especially with the female scouts, that you keep in mind that this is a scouting event. There are a lot of adults there. All of the judges will be there, and we really ask that you dress appropriately. That's something that they're going to take seriously. And so as it says on there, all of your skirts, your dresses should go to your knees, especially if you're in keeping with the 1940s theme. That shouldn't be that hard. But we just, ask that you be respectful and keep that in mind. And also, Mr. Gilliland just asked me to bring up that the Great Republic has not been won for several years. So we also ask that you keep that in mind, along with the Navigator Award, as you're kind of setting your sights on what you want to achieve this year. And okay, so some tips for success. I've actually gotten a couple emails with some questions about, what have I learned or what have other older scouts learned from their time at AMR. So we have a couple kind of pieces of advice. And this is something I can say. The first bullet, create a regatta practice schedule for each of your weekly meetings, and then make sure that schedule is known to your crew. That can be really helpful. I know there are a couple times if I didn't have quite a great idea of what I wanted in mind for my meeting, that time can be lost, and I'm sure we all know that time is really valuable. And if you set a list of priorities and what your ship really needs to work on and when and how much time you're going to devote to that, can go a long way in making sure you're fully prepared. Excuse me. Also, something to keep in mind, we often see people bypass the ship events, but those have more scoring value than team events, and it's important to keep in mind that you could qualify in every single event, but if you don't have the percentage points, you may not get nearly as high a class award as you were thinking. So again, really important to keep in mind, and really important to direct your skills there. And so that means the knots, the quiz, compass points, relative bearing, ring buoy, heaving line, and the very nature of being a ship event means that every member of your ship must compete in it. So really pay attention to the skills everyone's developing, because those can be a make or break kind of detail in how well your ship does. Also is really important is not only scheduling prior to the event, but scheduling at AMR. We see a lot of people who get kind of jammed up, and in that last 2 hours are struggling to fit in 8 events. And 1, you may not be able to get to those 8 events, and 2, if you're that rushed, you're not likely to do nearly as well as you would should you have the proper amount of time. So things to keep in mind, some constraints are that obstacle course is on Saturday morning and only is on Saturday and only Sunday morning. Drill is only on Saturday. Excuse me. And some other things that Mr. Gillen says they see every year are that, for example, nobody goes to charting or to radio, or those other events on the hangar deck often, not on the hangar deck, sorry, um, during, on the first day, and on the flight deck, he just corrected me. Um, and so we really encourage you to like focus on those and not leave all those for Sunday, because chances are everybody else is leaving those for Sunday as well. Also, pay attention to like zones so you can get all your stuff done down at the pool at once. So I don't know if we have anyone who's new to AMR here, but the pool is off of the Hornet, and it's a considerable walk. So it's really not ideal to be doing like ship swim, then leave, and then team swim, and then leave. So keeping all of those things in mind. Again, like I said, people tend to leave piloting, semaphore, code flags, radio, Marlin Spike, mystery event for Sunday. Sometimes I know I've heard from the ships because they want to give more of a chance for studying or reviewing. But again, all the studying in the world isn't going to get you very far if you can't actually get to the event. So we really encourage you to plan those out in that manner, because again, that can be a make or break kind of scheduling factor. Also, for those of you who have gone to Southwestern, as I have for 4 years, it's not quite the same policy where you can have multiple teams competing at one time. So when you're dividing up your teams, when you're trying to decide who you want to go where, if you're choosing between two people, if you can have teams where people don't overlap, that is always a good technique to use, because while you're waiting in line at obstacle course, somebody could run and go do piloting. That's just one example. But it's another really great use of time, especially on your Sundays. And again, so I think you can all see what Mr. Gillen just answered with it, which is describing the Great Republic Award, which I didn't talk about in much detail, but it's all down there. Okay, as I mentioned before, just keep in mind that the pool is a considerable walk, so you have to budget your time in there. Sometimes that's a good thing to do either as your first thing or as your last thing of the day. In the middle of the day, it can kind of eat up the whole day. That's just something I've learned from my own personal experience. Also, the sportsmanship trophy. I think it's self-explanatory there, but again, all of the like skill awards are obviously really important, but part of what makes AMR so awesome is the scouts that are there, and the sportsmanship trophy is a great way to recognize that.